Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Abroad Show here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. It's round 1 week. We're days away from Carlton's first match against the Tigers. It is Monday, the 10th of March, 2025. And I've got a Williams as a co-host. This is of the Chloe variety. Hello, Chloe.
Hello, it is great to be back.
It's great. It is great to be back. It is great to not be reviewing practice matches, and it is great to be thinking about 4 points on the line this week.
Definitely. I don't know. It's a great feeling going into round 1 after all these years, feeling relatively positive, pretty positive, let's be honest. But I'm just so keen to see, some footy for 4 points, hopefully.
You know, I remember a particular moment straight after the final against the Lions, and I remember the final siren going. Obviously, we were all pretty clear on how the result was going to play out before the final siren, but I remember the final siren going and just thinking, oh, it's like it's such a long way away before they can rectify what just happened.
Yes.
And you just got to, embrace the off season, and then there's obviously the reaction to the way it ended, and then just generally everyone's pissed off with everyone and everything. And now it's like, okay, finally it's here. Now they can fix it.
Yeah. And you know what? After all that, it has been a pretty positive off season, I would say. After thinking about how everybody felt in that moment, through the draft and a lot of positive preseason trainings. Obviously a couple of injuries, but touch wood. I will touch wood, of course. Feeling good about the list heading into the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just that weird part, that last week or so before the season does start, and then I think when you add opening round and the way it all played out with the cyclone, which meant that only 2 games were played, it's kind of like a little bit of a tease. And us in Victoria, we don't really feel the footy fever yet. But I don't know about you. Do you feel it any different in the cafes and whatnot? I mean, today was a public holiday, but do you feel something different in the city?
I actually haven't been. I've been working from home the past couple of days when I've been working, so I can let you know that tomorrow. But I'm sure I just feel like there'll be a bit more of a buzz than there was last year, just without some of the. I mean, obviously for Carlton supporters, opening round was amazing last year, but for footy as a whole, I think there might be a bit more of a buzz around this year. You're right. It was a tease to have one game and then one game. You just want footy on all the time. So I'm sure the city will be humming and ready to go.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. So basically, why don't we start with the end of last week before we get to this week? Because there was a really important function that happened. So maybe we can give a little recap of the Hall of Fame. Before we do that, Carl's, happy birthday today. And you're here on the Blue Abroad Show, tuning in.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday to Carl's. If you're watching and you're in the live chat, give us some well wishes. Love it. So I've been kind of keen to talk about the Hall of Fame because I experienced some things that I think are interesting talking points, and I want to get your perspective on the night and just what you thought of it.
Yeah. Do you want me to kick it off, or do you want to kick off first?
Yeah, you can kick it off.
Yeah, no, I thought the night was amazing. I know you were in pole position there at the front. I did go to the Hall of Fame last year as well, but so that one was in a different spot. But I don't know, there was just a great vibe in the air at the function, well, I thought anyway, last week. And for me in particular, and kind of when I grew up watching footy, like to have Murph and Simo inducted, it was just amazing to be there for that, because that's something that I have been kind of wanting to talk about, I guess, is I think both of them, and especially Murph, just really laid the groundwork for the team that we're able to have today, and hopefully the success that we can have in the coming years. I absolutely enjoyed being able to celebrate them in particular. The whole event was awesome, but they're underrated by the wider community, so I thought it was a great night.
Yeah. I picked up on a few interesting things. So I never watched Percy Jones play.
Yeah.
Obviously, way too young. So I don't really have the connection to him like some of the people that call in, for example, or just a part of the Carlton community. And I loved Murph. Murph was my guy. It's well documented. He was my favorite. Also loved Simo. But listening to them talk on, last week, it was, I don't know, there was a different feeling. I felt the way that Percy spoke about the club and just he's 78 years old, and the energy that it brought him while he was talking about his time at the club, that is the passion, and I think what really gets me connected to the club, even though I never watched him play. But like, he just had this care factor. I don't know. It was really bizarre. I felt really connected to him more than any of the others, even though I watched all of Mark Murphy's games and all of Kate Simpson's games.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I also did not watch him play, but his little Q&A session was amazing. Yeah. So I can definitely see that.
Yeah. So Jimmy, he wasn't inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's already been inducted. He was actually elevated to legend status. So that's why he was a part of the night and part of the celebrations. Chloe, there was another comment made. It was made by Mark Murphy, which grabbed my attention, and I wanted to explore it. He spoke about his time at the club, obviously coming up with the number 1 draft picks and obviously riding that upward trajectory with Juddy and Gibbs and Cruz and those types. And, 2011, we finally started getting there. 2012, it started looking good, and then it just fell apart. 2013, 14. And then he was talking about how he found himself all of a sudden at the, face of everything. And we were going through another full rebuild. And then he said towards the end of his speech, he said, I know I wasn't liked by some fans, or I know I wasn't liked by some. And that disappointed me a lot. That made me pretty sad to hear him even speak that way. Like, yes, there was frustrations towards the end of his career. We're in lockdown, COVID affected seasons. And obviously there were opinions around whether he should or shouldn't have been playing, and maybe we should have been getting games into Sam Philp and Josh Honey and these types. But to hear him say that was just really strange to me. I thought that was pretty sad.
Yeah, I do. I definitely remember that comment. I guess I didn't really think about it that much, but I would hope that wasn't the case. It does surprise me that he felt that way, because at least from everyone that I spoke to at the time and people that I still speak to, I don't think that was the collective opinion. So yeah, you're right. It's interesting that that's how it was portrayed, at least to him. You kind of wonder what he was reading, or potentially who he was speaking to at the time, to think that way, I guess.
Yeah, it's just weird. But anyway,
yeah, I didn't think about it, but it is a bit odd now that you highlight it specifically. Yeah,
I was looking forward to it. I was looking forward to talking about it. What else brought my attention? Heard Robert Priestley speak for the first time as president. That was cool. Other than that, just fun. I had so last week we raffled off. We gave away the ticket. It ended up being Lisa, who I just couldn't get in touch with. So ended up being Mary, who won the ticket. Called Mary. Mary said, take my husband, Jim. So Jim and I had a great time. Sat with Corey and his sponsors, other sponsors as well. And overall, it was a good night.
Good night. Amazing. Yeah. This is a random circle back, but what you were saying before about Murph talking about the kind of the trajectory the club went on when he was there, that was probably something that stuck out to me, to think that, now we're kind of back on the upward trajectory. I was doing some reflecting, and I think probably the real difference between then and now is because I think he specifically said our depth wasn't good enough, but I think that now it is. So I think that's interesting. I'm sure we'll discuss that later when we start to talk about team news. But yeah, I think that that's a promising sign, considering that, I guess, in his opinion, and probably the wider opinion, was something that let us down at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was Hall of Fame. Nice way to kick off. It's kind of become the season launch event as well. combined with the sponsors dinner as well. So it's all in one. And then we got to the weekend, and then we had the open training session, and there's a few bits of information that came out there. You were not at open training, were you?
Unfortunately, no, I was not, but I was trying to keep updated through Twitter. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Charlie confirmation, no surprise, but we got it straight off the bat, which was cool. The Walsh confirmation was also great. He just needed to get through the session. Seems like he got through the session, so therefore he'll play. Nick Haynes will debut for the club. And then the final actual confirmation came through about Lucas. I guess I was a bit hesitant to accept that it was going to actually happen. There's quite a few people that definitely thought it would happen. And Lucas will play. So what do you make of it?
After watching that Giants game, I'm incredibly happy that he'll play. I just thought, obviously his stats were great, but watching the game, he passed the eye test with flying colours. I think he kind of adds a different dimension than what we've been seeing in previous years. So I can't wait to see how it goes for him on the big stage.
Yeah. I spoke to quite a few people as well who reminded me about 1995 and young Scott.
Yes, crossed my mind.
Yeah. He debuted in 1995, round one, and then he was not playing in the prelim, and then Troy Brown was dropped for the granny, and young Scott came in. So after playing most games in the season anyway. So we'll see what happens. I was on a show last night with Pommy, and he was asking me, like, what do you expect of someone like Lucas? Because it's been a while since I can remember since we've had like someone in the 50s who's been picked up in the draft play round one. So like, what's the expectation, if anything?
Yeah, I guess I haven't really thought that far. I was just excited to see him play, but I think based on how he performed last week, I would never want to put pressure on him in any way, but I think they've picked him because of the fact that they think he can make a solid contribution. So
yeah. I mean, it's great because I think most of preseason was spent for a lot of us talking about Jackson Binns playing on the wing, Ollie Hollands going to halfback. I mean, it's great because all of a sudden Binnsy has competition, whereas Binnsy was the competition last year. Now he has competition and also needs to become the competition for spots. So I can only imagine it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's a great spot to be in, to have so much, I would say pressure on the best 22 as well. It's the spot you want to be in. Hey.
Yeah. One other thing that Vossi mentioned at training, he made mention at the end. He said, sadly, we're not going to win every game, which I don't think I've heard a coach say that. I've heard Mick Malthouse say, I can't see us losing a game. Yeah, I've heard that before. I was actually standing, who was I with? I think I was with Wowdy. And we kind of looked at each other and we're like, why'd you say that? Like, why say that? But at the end of the day, is that just being honest? Is that just the truth? Because it's likely we won't win every game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a little jarring. It'd be great to win every game, but yeah, it's not really reality to win every game, no matter what sort of trajectory you're on. So I guess it is great to kind of see that level of honesty, which is not always there.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't feel one way or another. I think initially I thought it was weird and I just thought there's no need to say it. But then I realized a bit later on, I mean, Cripps has sort of made mention of it recently, saying he wants to see how we'll go and how we'll behave and how our habits are when we go on a run and win 5 in a row. And I think he used the example of if we lose 2 in a row. So I think it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. He was being honest. He was just being real. He wasn't projecting and selling hope. And I think that's kind of been the theme of the preseason. There's no projecting. There's no hype. Obviously, they've got to answer questions that are given to them by the media and, we want to aim for top 4 and all of that. I do feel good about the level of hype around the club going into the year.
Yep, I think we could probably all agree that last year, well, I mean, I guess it's still debatable. Last year there was obviously a lot of hype, and we all know what that amounted to, but obviously there's various reasons for that, and in my opinion a lot of it was actually called for. But I think it's a good spot to be in, kind of like not as much hype as last year, but still enough hype that they probably know they can do it, and it's just a matter of trying to get it done. So it's kind of more of a mellow hype, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think I'm seeing it from, I mean, a lot of mainstream media. I'll talk about the Giants, and fair enough. Collingwood, maybe also fair enough. And that there's almost like a discounting of Carlton. And then I think for a lot of fans, there's just, I mean, the last memory that we have is a frustrating one. And so there hasn't been too much projecting from the fan base that I've seen. Like a little bit, everyone's like, I mean, I'm excited, but every time I have a conversation around the season, I'm not sort of going, I mean, I still think they're a top 4 team. My concern about Carlton is more so the club off field. And is that going to get in the way of what's happening on field? That's my concern. I think on field, it's all there, ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking in terms of like coaching?
What about, sorry?
When you talk about off field, are you talking about coaching?
I'm talking about upstairs.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about upstairs.
Yeah.
All the competing interests and managing them and overlapping and getting in each other's way and that sort of thing. Yeah. That's what those are my concerns, and I hope that they are not concerns by the end of the year.
I hope not too. That would be, it's one of those things that also, when you talk about getting all your ducks in a row, like that's equally as important too, to be able to have that real push at the end of the year. So yeah, I mean, the outside noise is definitely not as big as it has been in the past for Carlton, and I think a lot of that really just goes down to probably the state of where other clubs are at, and also I think due to the fact that we did lose that game so terribly, that final, it kind of made people think that we weren't real contenders. There was obviously so many things that went into that, and so many things that we've done. I guess you can't really say something like around the ground defensive pressure is definitely solved. It looked better against the Giants, but stuff like that, we need to kind of wait and see whether that's going to improve. But I think at the end of the day, we were in a really solid spot before it all started to capitulate last year. There was obviously different reasons for that, but I think that whole saga and that whole series of games probably made people think, probably validated what they wanted to think, which was they wanted to think that we weren't legitimate contenders. I'm not talking about Carlton supporters. I'm talking about, media and other fan bases. So I think that is probably why the noise is a little bit quieter, but they probably also don't see players like even like Matt Cottrell or Cooper Lord, or even someone like Camporelli. They probably just don't see them as, as impactful as they will be this year.
Yeah. I mean, before you know it, we could be 3-0 and they'll be talking about us as the violent Blues again. I thought David King was like one of us almost last year. He was a big supporter of what we were doing, and he seems to have turned.
Yeah, well, I guess it didn't really work out for him the way he hoped last year, being on the bandwagon. So maybe he's a little salty. But yeah, the tide does seem to have turned, but I'm sure it won't take too long for that to be rectified. Let's hope.
Yeah, well, let's hope. Let's hope. Do you think lessons have been learned in load management from last year? Because if we circle back, Walshy hurt himself and sort of compromised the start of his season. I mean, he did hurt himself this preseason, did a hammy, but he wasn't risked in the Giants game, and it looks like he's going to play Thursday night. Charlie, I mean, if you're at training, I mean, he's clearly not 100%, but if you're at training and you're watching the match sim, he just, I mean, everything just gravitates towards him, and he looks like he can still impact on Thursday. But I guess it's a sign. We'll find out in a month or two if this load management that they've done with Walshy and Charlie has worked.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I think that it's definitely vastly different from how it was treated at the start of last year, and probably at times during the season last year. I guess it could potentially be a hint to us all about how they could manage potential in-season injuries as well. Maybe we might see, I mean, hopefully we see no injuries, but if anyone does happen to get injured, maybe we might see some longer layoffs and finally some trust in our depth so that we're right to go at the right time of year, which obviously we weren't last year. But yeah, I mean, when I was at the open training prior to the weekends one, so the last one before that, I caught up with you afterwards, but I can't remember when that was. It was when Charlie got injured again, and he was looking great before that. So based on the fact that his surgery seems to be relatively minor, I'm not surprised that he looked relatively ready to go at training the other day. I did hear some things about how good he did look on the track. So yeah, I definitely think it's just a conservative approach. Even with Walsh, another conservative approach. I'm sure that if, say, we were playing an opening round, they probably would have just, let him play. But I think that it is great to see that sort of shift in mindset, because I think that is really important to kind of tackle the injury issues we've been plagued with in the past.
Yeah. Do you know how much of the preseason did Charlie do before that first, what do you call it, minor surgery that he had?
Well, he had was it the ankle surgery first in December? I don't have it in front of me, but I think that he had 3 surgeries.
True.
He had the knee
Post-season surgery.
Yeah. So I think he was kind of like this, down again like this. So I definitely wouldn't call it a consistent preseason, but I think he's not someone who necessarily needs that, which I think is why, though, they're giving him a strong conditioning block now just to make sure. Because obviously on face value, he probably doesn't need that as much as some other people do. Probably similar to Walsh, really. But I think they're just really making sure that they can get that longevity out of him for the year. So. But yeah, I don't think it was an ideal preseason block that he completed prior to that most recent surgery.
All right. Well, I would like to see your team for this week. That's what I would like to do.
Yes, I've written it down. I actually think I was listening this morning to, I'm very late on the listen, the Untitled Blues pod, shout out. And I think I have the same team that Pont had, but we'll just go with it anyway. So I've got Silvani.
Well, what I'll do is, before you start, I'm going to
Okay.
share my screen and do it
Okay.
and do it here, and we can go one by one.
All right. I wonder if, well, I guess I've
Where is...
potentially given away my lineup now, but.
Well, you said Silvani, so no, that's okay. Stand by. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. We can go, because last week we did it. Now we know that Walsh is playing.
Yeah.
I'm also curious to see with one other player that I'm going to prompt you with in a minute. I just want to see what your backline is first.
I feel like I know who it could be.
All right.
Okay.
Give me, let's go in your back pocket, your backline.
I've got Silvani there.
Jack Silvani,
yeah.
I like it. Okay. Fullback.
Waiters.
Okay. Back pocket.
I've got Lockie Cowan.
Yeah. Okay. Half backline. Start with, yeah.
I've got, well, I guess it doesn't really, I think I put Gov there, but I guess he could be centre back, but we'll just pop him there. That's what I've got written down.
All right. Yeah. No, this is your team. Centre half back.
Well, no. Okay, maybe we should change it because I do have Ollie Hollins there, but I just kind of wrote it in a random order. So
all right. That's Elijah. So Ollie.
Yes. Okay. Well, if we're being really specific, I might just switch Jack there and I'll put Gov back in the back pocket. How about that?
Oh, okay. And then Silvani here.
And then I've got Saad as the other halfback.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Let's just say Silvani here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll wait. Actually, no, I won't. At training, I haven't seen much of Jordan Boyd, and then I see a bit of Jordan Boyd, and every time he kicks the ball, it's just a breath of fresh air because we don't really have too many that use it like him. Is
That
he
is
in the
true.
mix for Thursday?
Well, the last I heard from the club was that he would be available for selection for round 1. So I would presume that he's in the mix based off that, which would be interesting because then I presume they would have to go one less tall. But I thought that worked pretty well against the Giants. So, yeah, it's very interesting to see where they go. They've got plenty of selection headaches ahead of them, I must say. That's how I felt anyway, making this team. But,
I mean,
yeah, I guess I didn't consider him putting him in my team just because we haven't seen him in action yet. But I think that was potentially another one of those conservative moments that I was alluding to earlier could happen throughout the season. Apparently just a few niggles for him, but they probably just wanted to get him right and ready. So I presume that he is every chance of being in the mix.
okay. Now I'm going to put Lucas Camporelli on a wing.
Yep.
Just because we know he'll play.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Oh, it's a really tough one, but I'm gonna have to go Cripper for that. Yeah.
I don't think he's earned the right to play in the middle personally. I think he's got a few more
maybe.
sessions to tick off before we get him in there. And then the other wing?
Akers.
Okay. That's reasonable. Now your forward line. Start with your half forwards.
So I've got Cottrell, Mackay, and Fantasia.
Cottrell, Mackay, and Fantasia. Love it. He's had a solid preseason, Orazio.
Yes, indeed.
Forward line, forward pocket, full forward.
Motlop, Kemp, Williams is what I have in front of me.
Jesse Motlop, Brody Kemp, full forward. And Zach Williams. Okay. It's going to get juicy in a minute. Followers.
I've got De Koning, Chera, Hewitt.
Hewitt. Okay. So that leaves 4 on the interchange bench. Oh, we also know that Nick Haynes is playing.
He's on the interchange bench, if that helps.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Nick Haynes. Okay. Who's your next one?
I will just say quickly that I guess that means that if it would be anyone missing for Boyd, I presume it could be Silvani. But the rest of my interchange bench, I've got Walsh, Fogarty, and Cooper Lord.
Walsh, Fogarty, Cooper Lord. Walsh, Fogarty, and Cooper Lord.
Yes, I do have him in that spot.
Who's your sub?
Elijah Hollins.
Do you have it? Do you have any idea about what's going on with him? Is he just being managed? Like, why isn't he not featuring in the main group as much?
I genuinely have no idea what is happening. I presume that it is a management issue, or, everyone's spot is up for grabs, I would say. So if there's been other people performing well in preseason, it's not unlikely that if someone else hasn't potentially worked as hard, their spot might be up for grabs. I don't necessarily see that with him, but with someone like, a Matt Cottrell bringing the heat, I suppose. We're obviously looking for some speed and pressure, and Elijah can do that too. But I'm just speculating. I have no idea what the issue is, but maybe he didn't put in enough work during the preseason. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I have no thoughts, but I mean, end of last season, I thought perfect. great first year at the club, got plenty of games under his belt, gets a full preseason, which I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah.
I thought he would be one that's ready to go to the next level. And I mean, really elevate, because he was a highly touted pick.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just weird. However, I will say this. I remember last year, Lockie Cowan not featuring so much in the preseason. And I remember saying in the preseason towards round one, saying, oh, what's going on with Lockie Cowan? Like, I haven't really seen him. And then he ends up playing and featuring, and the rest, we all know how he season played out. So I don't know, but obviously his name is the sub. Doc, not here. Doc can't get a gig. It's not a bad thing. If he can't get a gig and there's players pushing ahead of him, then the list is improving.
For me, I think after what I saw against the Giants, I had Cooper Lord in that spot just because it had me thinking, if there's not really against the Tigers, I don't imagine, but if there is a scenario where Cooper needs to go forward, cops a tag, or even if he wants to stay on the ground but rotate forward for a bit of a rest, I just think that having the ability to put Lord in there proved to be the right move. It proved to be pretty damaging, whereas before, we could look a little weak in there at times without him in there. So unfortunately, that meant that Doc had to miss. He'll definitely play a huge role this year. It was a line ball decision, but I had to go with Cooper just based on what I've seen in the preseason. It'll be interesting though.
Coach Chloe, that was great. It's very, very interesting to see your team and how it all played out.
Yeah.
So the next thing, now this may not work for those of you who are not watching on your TV, but we'll talk you through it. I found a graph on Reddit over the week, and it was basically going through the lists in the AFL and how they've been built and the mix between those who have been drafted and those who have been recruited. And so this is the latest version for Carlton. This might be really tricky to read, so don't worry, I'll talk you through it. In the top half, you see sort of like the darker colors, the navy blue. Those are our draftees, so players that we've recruited. That's 30 of them. 4 picks in the top 10, 4 picks between 11 and 20, 8 picks between 21 and 40, 4 picks between 40 plus, including a few father-sons, 5 rookie or preseason drafts, and 5 other. And then you see on the bottom half, those that we've headhunted, which is 15 players. I guess my question is, do you have and those of you watching, do you have an opinion on what makes the right balance? Like, do you prefer home? I mean, I think everyone would prefer that we draft every premiership player, just because we get that link to them. How important do you think the recruiting is as opposed to drafting?
I think it's definitely important, and I think that it's probably becoming more important because you can see the sort of impact that it's having on other groups like a Hawthorn, for example. But I think we've done it quite well over the past few years. If you kind of look at where our list was and where it's come to, there was kind of a period of time where we were almost kind of in limbo, and then there was some players who maybe we were expecting to perform better who didn't quite perform as well as we hoped, and then we kind of solidified their roles with some talent that we'd brought in. But also, when I consider the last few years, a lot of the people who have taken those spots have been homegrown too. So I think that we've got a pretty good balance, but I wouldn't say that I have an idea of what the ideal balance would be in total. But I think we've picked up people where we need to, but also done a good job at developing the talent that we do have, which is probably something that hasn't been a strength of ours in the past.
Yeah, I think we've got it when it comes to recruiting. Pretty much since Nick Austin took over, there's been more success than what there hasn't been with recruits. And I think that might be because maybe before Nick Austin, we were just trying to get, names through the door. Experienced players through the door. Did they necessarily fit exactly what we needed in terms of a role? don't know. I mean, I remember Mitch McGovern initially was recruited to be the third forward to help out Charlie and Harry and help them develop. I remember Zach Williams was drafted as a halfback flanker that was going to rotate through the midfield to give us a little something different. And obviously now he finds himself as a forward. But then if you sort of, I mean, Saad, to be fair, Saad has been Saad from the whole time. Drafted as a defender, and he's still a defender. And then I think when we moved into the next phase, so Chera, I think Blake Acres, I even think of Elijah Hollins in that bracket as well. They haven't been necessarily big names, household names, but the roles that they've performed have been so important. I mean, Fogarty is another one that I think of.
Hewitt,
yep.
Yeah. I've had some good additions. Like, as you say, they haven't been big names, but I think the thing for us as well is the main thing over the past couple of years and going into the next few too is just kind of retaining the great talent that we do have already is probably something that is more on our radar than anything. So,
What's your circle of footy friends like when it comes to banter and, you know, general footy chat? Are you amongst, I mean, workplace as well probably counts for something. Like, what's the feeling in your world coming up to this week, and I guess over the weekend?
my footy banter is mainly in the workplace and like within my family. So yeah, it's good. It's great at work. Obviously we're talking footy all the time. So yeah, at the moment it's more I've picked Cripps in my Supercoach team because I can't part with him as a Supercoach pick yet, but there's a lot probably better value options. He doesn't really prove much value, but I'm hoping he can go big for the first 5 rounds or so. So that's probably what I'm copping it for at the moment, as well as the fact that I keep talking up Matt Carroll. So
Matt Carroll as a Supercoach option.
No, just as a player, but eventually, obviously, if he plays, he becomes Supercoach relevant. So
Okay. I had my fantasy draft last Tuesday. It was late at night, had a brain fade. I really wanted to, my housemate and I have a joint team. We really wanted to take Jack Silvani. We forgot. We took Taylor Adams and someone else, and then Jack Silvani went with the next pick, and then Taylor Adams does his hammy. It's brutal fantasy. It really is.
That's hopefully you haven't mozzed it for Silvani's fate, but no offense to you, but hopefully whoever picked him up has a very fruitful year.
Nah, full offense to me. I should have taken him.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. What about when you talk about Thursday night, Richmond? Because everyone I speak to, I mean, the conversation always goes, "How do you reckon we'll go?" Like, yeah, we'll win. It's just a matter of how much. I'm like, oh, we're definitely winning, right? Like, yeah, we can't lose. Like, cannot lose. Absolutely cannot lose. It's weird. It's weird because it's like, it's beyond expecting to win. It's about how much are you going to win? And this is not an area that we're used to too much. We're starting to move more into this era of when we come up against a really developing side. There's that real expectation you win and you dominate and you put the proverbial foot in the throat and you bury them. What's that been like in your circles?
Well, I think it's similar. So how much will you win by sort of thing, rather than, I think I'm the one saying we haven't won it yet, just because of the past. I definitely need to be more on the side of, how much are we going to win by? But like even round 1 last year was so close, and I thought we probably should have won that game by a bit more. But I think it's a bit of a different story this time. I think we can confidently say that we'll win, but in a matter of how much, I think kind of need to move into that next phase of feeling confident and not like it's all just a magic trick that will be over in a minute. But no, I think most people in my circles are of the opinion of the fact that we should smash them. So
yeah,
let's hope that comes.
It actually reminded me, Cripps mentioned that at the Hall of Fame Thursday night. He mentioned that early in his career, he was on the end of a few beltings and it's time to square it up over the next couple of years. He said something like that. So Yeah. Do you have is there a margin that you think, like a minimum margin? And maybe those of you at home as well, like, leave a prediction or an expectation. Because I think most of us going into Thursdays thinking like, yeah, this is we have to win if we're a legitimate contender. Footy's a weird game, but is there a certain margin that has to be reached, or is it just get the 4 points and away we go?
Well, getting the 4 points is definitely the first part, but I think we do need to kind of put the foot on the throat if we want to be considered. Is that the expression?
Yeah.
We need to beat them by a lot if we want to be considered as serious as I think we'd all like to think that we are. Beat them by, I think it was 60 odd, 61, something like that in the second game of that we played the Tigers last year. So, something around that margin. Maybe we won't just aim high straight away. Maybe around 40 points or more, I would say would be good. Hopefully the more aspect, but just trying to be realistic. Obviously just want the win, but I think it would have to be quite comprehensive. So I'll say 40 plus. What do you think?
No, I want blood. To quote to quote Mad Dogs. Yeah, we were looking for blood back in the day. Ruthless aggression, even an even spread of goal kickers. Although
Yes,
I've had it in my mind for weeks that Harry's just going to go gangbusters. Like,
I have to. Yeah,
oh my goodness, like just all of it.
he should. He should. Yeah. No offense to Richmond, but just based on their outs, especially in their backline's kind of copying it at the moment. So he should definitely clean up. I guess if he cleans up though, then we also have multiple goal kickers. You'd hope that you'd at least get 40 plus, hopefully around the 60 plus. Hey.
Yeah. Hey, have you heard anything about Harry Mackay? Is he good to go? All good? Like no, like he was just managed early Giants preseason and he's fine to go. Like no issues.
I didn't inquire about that one, but I presume that he's good to go, which could be a naive assumption. But I think it was more so you'd seen what had happened in some of the other preseason games with, say, someone even like Bond coming off. And, if it was something as big as that, we would have heard about it. But I think it was more just a precaution thing, especially, after Jagger, and you don't really want something like that happening again. So I think as soon as you feel anything, so even with Gov coming off, like, as soon as you feel anything in one of those games, especially I feel like there's a collective buy-in to have a bit of a healthier list this year. And as we were talking about earlier, that more conservative approach to injuries rather than the push that we've seen in the past. I think it was probably more of a reflection of that. I'd be very surprised if there was anything majorly wrong, but yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. Around.
Fair enough. Have I gotten your predictions for the season? Have we done that with you yet?
You haven't, and I haven't really thought about it, but I can give it a go.
Yeah, I want to get your pulse on what's going to happen in the year. How does it play out? What's the trajectory in your mind?
For Carlton specifically?
Yeah.
I'm hoping it will be a top 4 finish, just because of the fact that, it's a bit easier to win from the top 4. Obviously, Brisbane did it last year, but it's not an easy thing to do. So a top 4 finish would be comfortable and would put us in a position that we haven't been in before. And I think that our draw is conducive to that. Yeah, and then, obviously I'm going to say that I want us to go all the way, and I definitely think that we can, but it also depends so much on how other teams are looking at that time of year too. But I think a Carlton Hawthorn grand final would be very interesting, but I wouldn't count out Brisbane again. I think that obviously the Danaher loss is pretty big, but I think people are probably counting them out to go back-to-back a bit less than they should be, in my opinion.
Agreed.
I've seen a lot of hype on the Giants, which, obviously they played amazing on the weekend, but before that I didn't really fully understand why. Straight sets, obviously they had to make it there, but their performances in the finals last year weren't necessarily convincing. So I don't know. A few list changes for them, but I never really had them in my top 4, although I did have Sydney and I wasn't convinced by them the other day, but can't be overreactive. I guess I would say if I was going to, don't know if you're asking for this, if I was going to pick the top 4.
Yeah, I was about.
finish on top of the ladder. Someone else that I'm a bit thinking could have a good year is Geelong. So I'm not quite sure if they'd be top of the ladder, but top 4 would potentially be doable for them. So if I go Brisbane, Carlton.
Who's in your top 4?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I haven't written it down, so I'm just going to think off the top of my head. I'd go Brisbane, Carlton, top 2. But then you've got Freo as well. It's definitely going to be a tough year. I think it'll be similar to last year with the last round shaping the final ladder. But I think I'll lock in us and Brisbane, Geelong, and then we'll just have a tie for 4th with Freo and the Giants. How about that? Does that sound all right?
Wow, you sat on the fence very well there. I'm trying to get you to just lock into one, but no, you got that. You gave me 5. I'll take 5. I'll take 5.
Okay, we'll do it.
Yeah,
lock that.
No, that's fair. What about Brownlow? Who'd you pick for the Brownlow?
I would love Cripps to get a 3rd, but it would mean that we probably hadn't performed as well as we should in terms of sharing the load. I think we need to move past being heavily reliant on him. Maybe I'm thinking someone like a Caleb Sarong could be in for one. I would have said Bond if he was fit, but the obvious answer would be Dacos, but I'm not sure. I think Collingwood might go through a few challenges this year, in my opinion. So not just because of I was already thinking this, not just because of the other night, but I think that Freo will have a good year, and I think that he'll be central to that. So I'll lock him in for my Brownlow prediction.
So just want to circle back one more time to 12 months ago. We'd come off a prelim going into season 2024. We were all team Sam Walsh. Brownlow just won the Gary Ayres Award medal. He's also flown under the radar. I wasn't sure about him in Brownlow predictions and best and fairest predictions because I didn't know where he was at. Didn't know if it was going to play round 1, if it was a more round 2, round 3 conversation. But if he's just good to go Thursday, plays from round 1, I mean, we've seen him come back from his injuries and perform pretty well from the get-go. Maybe we were just all a year early on the Sam Walsh Brownlow call. Maybe it is Sam Walsh this year.
I would definitely not rule that out. I guess I was just waiting to see how he went. But I'm sure we kind of all know how that story goes by now, hey? And honestly, he polled so well last year, considering Cripps won very comprehensively. I thought he polled incredibly well, considering that. So, probably more attention on Cripps this year too. I mean, there probably should have always been, but fresh off the Brownlow, the umpires might even be looking for some different people to give votes to. I don't know.
Do you believe there's a bias with the umpire? Do you believe that, the discourse around Cripps's Brownlow and how it all played out, a number of votes, do you believe the umpires get sucked into that chatter?
I would hope not.
I would hope not.
Cripps's Brownlow is something that I'm willing to debate a wall about that because I think he deserved every vote. I mean, obviously there was about 2 questionable games, Freo and Essendon, but Freo, he still had the impact. Essendon, someone like Elijah Hollins could have got those votes, but Merritt was being tagged. I could probably talk about this all day, but it's not the most outrageous thing ever because I think that the obsession with, I don't know your opinion on this, but I think the obsession with stats and, the umpire should see the stats. I think that so many times the stats don't tell the full story. They obviously help, but if you're an umpire and you're watching a game, then you kind of just have to go on the eye test. And sometimes, I guess we've kind of learnt it in a way through Lucas's selection, is sometimes you can have less disposals and have more impact than someone who has heaps of disposals but not much impact. And I think if the umpires are just watching the game, you can really see the impact and award votes based on who's really had an impact on the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Nathan Buckley made a comment recently about Cripps, and I think it might have been during one of the practice matches, and he said at the end of the day, all you can do is, put yourself in the handful of best players on any given game. He was definitely in the best 3 players of every game, most games that he played last year, if not all of them. I think the other thing that gets lost. And I think the thing that gets lost when it comes to this conversation with everyone is that no one hears what happens on the field but the umpires. So any instruction that's happening, any like coaching that's happening, blocks that are happening, those sorts of things, they don't come up on stat sheets. You don't see how many times Cripps created some space for somebody else and that caught the attention of the umpire. And I think that always gets missed.
Definitely. And if we're going to go on a mini rant about this, I also think that, you know, it's kind of like when you're at school and you do VCE and you get put on a bell curve and you're only against the people in your year level. That's what I like to equate it to, is that someone like Cripps is only against the people who are on the field with him. So say if you have 1 week where Bont and Dacos are going head to head, and in the same week, you know, Cripps is going against, I won't pick someone, but, you know, maybe not the best opposition. It can kind of, you know, it can kind of skew the results, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's, I guess, like what you said, you can only beat what's in front of you. Everybody has a different fixture. Each week, say front of mind, like when we played Port Adelaide and Rosie wasn't playing, like each week, each team gets presented with a different opposition than, so like Cripps would verse a different Port Adelaide team than Bont would have versed. So I think there's just so much that goes into it. And just because you think someone is a good player doesn't necessarily mean, because Bont didn't poll that well as well because of someone like Treloar, whereas Cripps was back to dragging us across the line, especially at the end of the year, or even when we're at our best last year, he was still instrumental to that. So I think there's a lot that goes into it, and I think that the 45 votes were bang on, honestly. And I obviously watched every Carlton game in a lot of detail and thought that I thought he's pretty much was our best player each week. So I think that equates to 45. But it's the rant that you
no arguments from me, Chloe. Absolutely. The rant that I was happy to hear. Hey, stick around. We're about to do a giveaway. So, members, you have free access to the giveaway, 1 entry each. It's the 1998 All-Australian jacket, XL, Puma King on the back. A great piece, a really great piece. This was donated to the channel by the Silvani family. So I guess you can picture who the jacket belonged to. So about to spin, well, not spin the, it's not a wheel. It's just kind of all the list of names put here. And we're going to give it away. So again, thanks to everybody who has signed up to become a member. All members get one free entry to every giveaway. There will also a good chunk of you who bought individual tickets as well. So good luck. Let's see how we go. Bang. Mr. Kane Everett, congratulations. You are the winner of the second giveaway for the year, because last week was an impromptu giveaway. And I will be in touch with you and we'll get that shipped out to you as soon as possible. Thanks for playing. So also update to members, most of you, I think at least half of you, if not 3/4 of you, should have seen your key rings in your letterboxes. I am posting them every single day. They'll come in little envelopes like this. If there's any issues, I've had one issue so far where I don't know what happened. Chloe, so like at the bottom, like mind you, I'm very delicate with making sure the glue is done properly here. At the bottom, it ripped and the fucking key ring fell out. I'm like devastated because they're engraved. So you can't just I don't have duplicates. So anyway, you guys can get in touch with me if there's any issues.
Sounds like an Oz post issue, that one. Weather related, maybe.
Yeah.
Not a glue issue. Not a glue issue.
It's not a glue issue. It's not a glue issue. I've also learned from not licking the envelopes because could have died.
You know what?
Yeah, I didn't know. I had no idea that it was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually know for a while that that was based on, what could actually happen in real life. So
Yeah,
stick with the glue.
yeah, yeah. We live and we learn. What does your week look like, Chloe? Ahead of Thursday.
Just working until heading down to the G, which I could not be more excited for. Even the walk over, I'm just absolutely pumped. Don't know how I'll concentrate at work that day, but I will have to work up until going across. So, what about you?
Oh, it's properly a proper week. So tomorrow is the preview will come out. Footy Abroad will be on tomorrow night, 7:30. Ari and I will pre-record the biased footy show because Wednesday night will be the team's show.
Yeah.
So we'll get that out at some point. Ari and I onto it. Thursday, mate. What do you mean? It's just the best. It's the best. Wake up
Christmas.
Thursday. Yeah, it is. It's exciting. I'm going with my brother and my sister, and my housemate. It's gonna be good. And then late session fan cams, and then just the normal week. It's 24 weeks, whatever it's going to be of the regular programming. So yeah, I'm very grateful that we finally got here, because I'm telling you, when that final siren went of that final, I was like, wow, like it's just going to be a tough wait before they can
It
do anything
always
about
feels
it.
like,
Because
yeah, here we are. Even when we were at that
yeah,
that first training back, kind of when it was just the first to fourth year players,
yeah,
it feels like so long ago now. So yeah, but you're right. There's a bit of a point to prove, which I guess we didn't have coming into 2024 from 2023. It was like, oh, we've probably overachieved that year. So yeah, I think that element of having a point to prove as well should hold us in good stead too.
yep, absolutely. So that's that, Chloe. Thank you very much for joining. Appreciate your time. And
No worries.
yeah, we'll see you again, no doubt about it.
Of course.
And ladies and gents, good to be back. Tune in throughout the week. All the shows are back. Also, if you're going on Thursday and you haven't received your keyring and you would like me to just deliver it to you by hand, get in touch. I've already got a couple of you lined up for that. So we'll do that. Otherwise, have a great night. Go Blues.